Shlomo, my first question to you is, what's your deadlift these days?
What's my deadlift? Oh my gosh. So my 1 rep, I could just break a little over 6. So
100, he means, Gio.
but that's like a 1 rep. That's like, preparing for like a couple of weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
But I could get a little, I could break 6.
Okay. But are you deadlifting these days, or are you mostly, last time I talked to you, I feel like it was jujitsu.
Yeah, so it's primarily jiu-jitsu these days, but I do go to CrossFit a couple days a week. So it's
Okay.
not like I do it at all, but I'm not doing like one reps. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not maxing out on anything. I'm mainly doing like WODs and stuff like that. But
the 1 rep max.
I'm actually supposed to be I was supposed to be doing this race tomorrow morning, and I broke my toe last week. So I am literally, I'm the only my top half of my body works right now.
That's brutal.
Terrible.
You'd still deadlift with a broken toe, though.
I could still squat also. I just can't run.
Squat.
I was doing this thing called Hell on the Hill. I don't know if you ever heard of it. Jesse Itzler?
Oh, wait, I've heard of Jesse Itzler.
He's like an ultra marathoner.
Okay.
He's married to Sarah Blakely, who's like the owner of Spanx.
Spanx? Who doesn't? Yes, of course.
He does this race called Hell on the Hill. He used to do it. It's only like 250 people, and it's in Maine. And they just opened up this year is like the first year that they opened up to the public. He's been doing it for a couple of years with just like his like friends. And it's a half marathon, but it's a 4,800 foot elevation. It's the hilliest half marathon in the world.
Wait, is that what you were gonna do?
I was signed up for it. Yeah, my wife is actually there right now. She's doing it tomorrow morning. So
you're kidding.
Yeah.
Your wife is doing it, and you can't.
She's there right now. She is in Maine.
When do I get to meet your wife? That's awesome. I love it.
So, and Giovanni knows David. I don't know if you met David, our director of sales, but his wife started running together with my wife a little bit, and so she just took my ticket. So, she didn't train much for it. So I hope she does. I hope she's all right.
Let's see how that goes.
I shared it on my screen. Jamie, are you watching this?
I am watching it. Yeah. So if you were doing
go to All Day Running, I think is the name of their Instagram handle, and just watch her stories tomorrow. Maybe you'll.
That's brutal. Okay.
Right there. Yeah.
It's a hard pass.
Wait, speaking of Hell on the Hill, can you tell us what it is that you did at Juicy? Kane was like, I had to pick Shlomo up at like 4 a.m. because he wanted to do this thing that was straight up. There's a mailbox at the top.
So it's called Mailbox. So I didn't realize this. There's 2 ways of going up Mailbox. So the name of the hike is called Mailbox. And so I think I was talking to, who was I talking to first? I think I was talking to Nick first. So I don't know if you know the whole story, but the whole story is I was talking to Nick. And then, oh no, this is what happened. I was reading Peter's bio because I was moderating that panel, and Peter was on that panel. And if you read his bio, he's like an ultra marathoner. He does.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wait, Peter Chi.
Oh, Peter Chi. Yeah. So Peter Chi, like he does this thing called rim to rim, where you run from one side of the Grand Canyon to the other.
Yeah.
50-mile race, basically in the desert.
Yeah.
I think he runs like what does he run? He runs like a marathon, like a month or something crazy like that. He's constantly, I just saw, he sent me a picture the other day. He was running on the beach with a parachute. So, so I told him, I just texted him, I'm like, hey, I'm coming out to Seattle. You live in Seattle. I was like, let me do something crazy with you, And he's like, and so he writes back to me. He's like, from a 1 to 10, what do you want to do? I was like, obviously, let's just do a 10.
And then poor Nick, who's triathlete, retired triathlete that's still incredibly good.
Wait, Nick Clark.
That boy can run. Okay, Nick Clark. Can run. I've ran with Nick. He can run.
Okay.
And then so I told Nick about it, and Nick is like, yeah, I'm totally in. And then I was talking to Kane, and Kane had just did Ironman.
Yeah, he's also a total badass. Yeah.
And then Javier is also an animal. He also does like
I follow him on Instagram, and I'm always like, Javier,
he's like mountain biking and climbing, and like it's so here I am going to Juicy, think like I'm like the Viking, right? I could do anything, and really like I'm the weakest link in this group,
No.
So,
You asked
so
for
I
the
told Nick
ticket.
about it, and then Nick is like, "Yeah, I'm down. Let's go." And so Peter's like, "Let's just go now." And so it's like the end of Juicy. It's like 3 p.m. Like Juicy's just over, and everybody's going out for a drink. And I'm like, "Let's go right now." And so I didn't even ask Peter like when we get back, and Peter's like, "Yeah, let's go. We'll just hop in my car. We'll go right now." And then Nick is like, "Oh, if we go now, when will we get back?" He's like, Peter's like, probably like 12 a.m., something like that. And I was like, "What?" So he's like, "But don't worry." He's like, "I have headlamps, so we're gonna probably have to walk down in headlamps."
Don't worry.
I was like, "Okay, what are our other options?" He's like, "Well, it's supposed to rain tomorrow, and we could do it tomorrow, but we got to start at like we got to wake up at like 3:30 and be there by like 4:30 in the morning." So yeah, and the rest is kind of history. And of course, I don't
Wait,
know.
so because so Nick's like, let's do happy hour, and then we'll get up and
Correct. And so the story goes that Nick, who like helped get everybody together, then doesn't show.
Right.
Doesn't answer his phone, doesn't answer his text,
Yeah.
nothing. And Nick was a no-show for it. So
All I gotta say is the video was amazing. Jamie, did you watch that video?
no.
Oh
I
my
didn't
gosh,
see it.
Shlomo, you'll have to send her the video. So
I'll
literally,
send
we
you
had
the
a
video.
team put in a video, and it is number one, raining the entire time. Number two, it's cold.
Right.
And number three, it's a straight up.
it's just like this. It's like
Yeah.
climbing a hill like this. You're really climbing with your hands and your feet, because it's like that's like the incline. And these guys, like, I thought I was in shape. These dudes like Javier and Peter are just scaling this thing, and I'm trying to keep up, and I was like,
I was
Yeah.
gonna say,
All
I at first I
240
wanted an
pounds.
invite next time, but the climbing, I don't climb. I don't know how I would do.
Well, Shlomo, if we're being honest here, you probably have 100 pounds on each of those guys, right? I mean,
solid 100 pounds on them.
Yeah.
and so that's the reality.
I
right?
walk around at 240. So
all
yeah.
muscle, all muscle,
I don't know
solid
about
100
that. I
pounds.
don't know
But
about
still,
that.
if you're
enough muscle.
Yeah, and I bet you Peter and Javier probably walked around at 150, 160.
Well, Peter
Peter.
is probably 130, 140. I would say Peter's probably 140. Javier is a little bit bigger, but yeah, I mean, they're just used to it. These guys are just,
Yeah.
I'm not a runner, you know, I'm
And-
a lift heavy thinker or strangler.
And then it showed when the next day your weight, right? Showed when Peter drank his ice.
Yeah, exactly.
They got ice with 32-ounce Smirnoff ices, and poor Peter was intoxicated by the time he got halfway
We smoked
through.
that guy. Yeah.
I think Peter's our next candidate,
GWA's
by the
coming
way.
up. GWA is coming up, and I put on the chat. I was like, "So what are we doing, guys?" So apparently there's no mountains around there, and now I have a broken toe, so we're gonna have to figure something out.
How long does a broken toe take to heal, though? We got a few weeks.
I don't know. It's gonna take a little while. It's really annoying. It's amazing how fragile the human being is. You know, it's like I have like a broken toe, and like
You're
I'm
not a
literally
human.
sitting
You're
right there.
immortal. You're
I'm like a
freaking.
little-
You're
yeah.
a Viking.
Totally.
It's terrible. It's terrible. It's embarrassing.
Okay.
Well, Mara's got that CrossFit gym right down the
Well, I was
street.
gonna say, Shlomo, Mara has a space in Frisco, and Mara Hauser, she had me spec, so she has like a gym in it. So it's in a residential building, and they have co-working, and she's like, I've got this space for a gym. I want to spec it for like a CrossFit, you know. So she's like, she sends me an email. Are you sure we need this many 45-pound plates? I was like, Mara, deadlift day. Of course you do.
That's amazing. Okay, awesome. All right, so that's it. So we got one activity. Let's do it.
I mean, we could
You know
do
when?
we could do something in there, like
I'm in. Let's
you
go.
know.
Just tell me when we're in.
Okay.
You know what
We'll
I
set
just
up-
noticed? Is that the Bond Coffee Collective in the background?
Yeah.
That is hilarious.
This is Gio's move. He's got a
Yeah.
better background than you do right now.
Yeah, but Gio has never pulled this move off of. So let me tell you about the Bond Coffee Collective. So we opened up Bond Collective in Chicago. We announced that we're opening. And I want to say about a month after we announced that we're opening, and I guess because we're doing SEO and everything, people start sending me this, that friends that live in Chicago, they're like, did you open up a coffee shop in Chicago? And I was like, what are you talking about? And they send me this thing, Bond Coffee Collective. And basically some guy opened up a coffee shop in Chicago called the Bond Coffee Collective, and has absolutely nothing to do with my company. And Gio's in
wrong-
it right now.
Wrong image.
Damn.
Oh,
See,
better hire
that's
his
a
SEO guy.
total backfire. Total backfire.
That's okay. I'm wondering, can you just turn around and get a cup? Because like, I'm curious if the coffee's at least good, you know?
Okay, so but while he's doing that, yeah, tell us your story. And I think the reason we probably thought it was you is, well, now that I'm looking at it, I'm not sure you do those booths or those chairs. But the
Yeah,
aesthetic is reminiscent of a bond. So
it's
tell us
okay.
your story.
It looks decent. It looks
Yeah,
decent.
it looks decent, but a bond is
Okay.
more than decent, isn't it, Shlomo?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
So tell us the story and why you went after, high-end premium design boutique.
Well, yeah, I mean, I wish it was a better story than just, us as a team being super into design, getting really excited about our spaces. And we just like every space that we did, we got more and more excited about. And Alita, who
That's kind of distracting. Who is that? Shlomo? That's not Shlomo.
Wait, that looks like a cardboard. That looks like a cardboard cutout. Or you know where you got that one from? That's from like The Real Deal or something.
CRE Tech.
That's going. Can you get a bunch? Can you just keep on rolling images?
Yeah.
Like a slideshow.
There's one where they put me in. This was like the most flattering one. There's like a Real Deal article. I don't remember even what it was, but it's like somehow it's my picture, and then it's like Adam Newman and the CEO of Blackstone.
Sweet.
Like,
in good company.
How did I get in this?
All right, y'all keep talking. We got
keep going.
Just keep digging. You keep digging.
Yeah.
So basically, Alita, who is the director of design, super passionate about spaces. Like I've always been passionate about building cool spaces, and really it was just like starting to talk to our members. So we had our first location. Our first location is way more of like I would say just like a generic, nice, like cool shared workspace. But even in that one, when we started creating it, we started like at that point, I remember we were like redoing, like I used to have a construction company. So we're redoing like a brownstone building, and we took out all the old beams, and I had all the old beams and I just didn't want to throw them away. I didn't know what to do with them. So like I had my guys, like, I don't even know how much it cost us, but we just sat there and I sat with them for like a month and a half, and we made like 50 to 70% of the tables that are in that space are all like these old beams that we took out of an old building. And it was more like we just, I got into like making furniture at that point. So it is a little bit of a passion project of making really, really cool spaces. And also like talking to the people at that point when we're about to open up our second location, which was in Gowanus, Brooklyn. And we just started asking our members, like, what did we do good here? What could we do more? Where'd you come from? And a lot of them were coming from a Regis, or they're coming from a WeWork, or they were in our space, and they started telling us like, this is what we liked about this place, or this is what we didn't like. And they were just giving us a lot of feedback. And ultimately what it came down to is people want really comfortable, nice professional space. And when I say professional space, it's not really that sort of like, sterile sort of feel. It's much more that like hospitality driven feel, like you wanted to feel like you're in a hotel lobby. And so like we came up with this sort of idea, me and Alita, that we want to build spaces that when we're done with it, we want to live there. And that's really what kind of came to be. And we're lucky enough to have jobs where we're oh, there it is, where we're allowed to do it.
That's such a great photo.
How did I get in that picture? I don't even understand.
Okay, for anybody who's not watching the YouTube version, I'm gonna have to highly recommend you switch over.
But this is gonna be our screenshot right here.
No, that should be your screensaver. I hear that.
Okay.
So speaking of, you're in the picture with Adam Newman here. Why don't you talk about how you even got in the business? Jamie and I were talking about that earlier.
But we got to keep it short because we're on the
in
clock.
honesty, I just really wanted to elevate the world's consciousness.
Oh, Shlomo.
Through renting office space.
Mission accomplished, Shlomo.
Yes. How did I get into it? So that one actually does, it does actually connect a little bit to Adam.
Yeah.
I had a construction company. At that point, I was like kind of working out of my old boss's office because we worked for a developer, and it was after the crash. And so he had extra space and guys, and like we're using all of his stuff. And he was getting sick of us as we were like building up our company. He was getting busy again. And he's like, it's time for you guys to find your own office. And so I went out and I started looking at, basic, regular, traditional leases. This is like 2012, right before end of 2012, beginning of 2013. I believe at that point is the first time I ever heard of WeWork. And I think the big news is that they were expanding out of New York, and they're opening their first location. I think it was like either in San Francisco or in LA, and they had raised like $14 million. Like I remember seeing that. So like that's kind of just like give the idea of where the shared workspace world was at. And at that same time, a friend of mine who was an attorney just went off, left like a big firm, went off on his own, and he told me, he's like, I'm working out of this co-working space. I was like, what's a co-working space? And he's like, come down and see it. So he was working out of a green desk, which is, I think everybody knows the story now. Before WeWork started, Adam started this company called Green Desk with this guy, Josh Gutman, in Dumbo. And I go into this space, and mind you, I've never been to any, I'm in the construction world, right? And so it's just like, it's apartments, and it's, maybe some like, a doctor's office that we're renovating. And I walk in there, and at that point, there used to be like this bar in the middle called Rebar. And there was this bar, and then there's like all around it are like these booths, and there's a guy in a suit doing work on his laptop, and then there's a guy with his dog, and then there's somebody else just like, having a coffee or a beer and sitting down. And I was like completely blown away by like what exactly is going on here. And then he takes me over to his office, and he's just like showing me around, and like meanwhile I literally was like one of those like a beautiful mind moments, you know what I mean? We're just like everything's like numbers and everything's crunching through my head. I'm like, how big is your office? I was like, do you have a tape measure in your office? He's like, why? I'm like, just give it to me. And like, I'm like measuring out his office, and I'm like, how much do you pay? And I'm starting to do these numbers. And at that point, my partner, Ellie, who was my partner in the construction company, also my fellow co-founder in this company, I call him up and I'm like, dude, you got to get down here and see what these guys are doing. We're going to do this, and we could do this way better than these guys are doing it. And essentially that's really how it happened. And like over the weekend, I literally couldn't sleep, just like thinking about this concept. And then I started looking into it a little bit. And so the idea was, at that point, we had our construction company, and I was like, I'm just going to take double or triple the amount of space that we need, and I'm going to make like this like little beta tested space and see what happens. So of course we go in, we build out the first floor. The building that we found was our first location in Flatiron, so 23rd and Park, and we took one floor, and we knew that a bunch of floors were rolling over. And the landlord was kind of like, I'll give you this 5,000 square foot floor. And well, that's when I learned about loss factors in New York. So it's really 6,000 square feet, which is probably like 1,000 square feet. and we built out our first floor. We had the whole front half, and then there was the rest of the floor. We filled it in like 6 months. Then somebody asked us to rent our space. Then we took the next floor, and then we kicked ourselves out of the next floor. And by the time we were about to kick ourselves out of the third floor in the building, we're like, okay, I think there's something here that we gotta get more serious about this. And that's kind of where it all began.
Oh, this is where Gio and I like, who's going to go next? So, talk about your positioning, because now what does the portfolio look like? How many locations? And
so now we have 14 locations. We're primarily in Brooklyn. We have 7 locations between Brooklyn and New York, and then the rest are kind of spread out. We have 2 in Chicago, 1 in DC, 1 in Philadelphia, 1 in LA, and 1 in Austin. And
talk about just give us the little sense of like brand positioning.
So it's really, it's hospitality for office, right? And I think that word is used a lot these days. So it's hard, it's everybody, if somebody finds like a buzzword, and
totally like, everybody's all over that,
or whatever it is, but at the end of the day, I mean, what is hospitality, right? Hospitality is taking it one step further than having the exact space and creating an experience. And I believe that what we try to do is go ahead into different cities, figure out what neighborhood we're in, what's going on there, what type of companies or type of people are within that space, and then kind of create and curate a space that fits really well for that community. And so like, for instance, I'm right now at 55 Broadway, and we have another spot that's 60 Broad right down the block. And like, they're much more, kind of a little bit higher end, geared a little bit more towards professional services, I would say, and have like a little sort of a different angle than them. Than like, you know, our spaces in Brooklyn, which are literally like 2 miles away. You know, it's a 20-minute drive to get to our next location. And it's like a completely different type of product. And like, that's the idea. And so like, we're constantly going into neighborhoods, finding where's like the best place, what building has the best bones that we can go ahead and like kind of transform it and recreate something there. And that's what we've been doing. So like we did that in Philly in the old Pennsylvania Railroad Station building. Our building in LA is an old Desmond's department store where we went ahead and we took it's hard to like keep a straight face with these things popping up in the back. But we took an old Desmond's department store and there was just like it was such amazing detail. Like I want to send you guys the old columns before they have them. Then we got these guys to come in and kind of restore all the column work and really like almost transform it and like bring it back into present day, but like with paying homage to like everything that was there within the space. And here, Gio, why don't you pull up some LA pics in the background?
So Shlomo, there's no template. It's really kind of neighborhood focused.
I think so. I think it's neighborhood focused, or if we find a building that we're like, wow, let's recreate that building. Like there's, you know, an old, like, you know, something that has like really cool, like historic bones to it, and saying like, we can go ahead and do something really special over there.
Yeah, and I think what I love about your space is it really feels like a boutique hotel, right? I mean, it's got that feel. There's just so much comfort and warmth to your spaces that it doesn't feel like a traditional office.
Yeah, I mean, and that's exactly what we're looking to do, right? Is, you know, if you walk into like certain, for instance, like, and no diss to them at all, but like, you know, they do some great work, but like I could walk into an office and I know if it's a Gensler office, right? And it just kind of has that sort of feel to it. And I know the furniture, and it's not even like, we're not spending more money than these guys. We're just building different than them, right? And the idea is, and so like that's LA in the background, right?
Are you sure you're not spending more money? Look at those light fixtures, Shlomo.
Yes and no, but you know what, something we're spending it wisely, right? So like we're going ahead and we're figuring out like where could we be smart and build something ourselves, or where could we outsource something, and then hey, this particular spot we need to have a wow factor, and so we're going to go spend money on this. So like right now, where like the background of where Gio is right now, I don't know how he got there, is he was just in Chicago in the Bond Coffee Collective a couple minutes ago. But like that space, like that second floor, we went for the wow factor there.
Those columns are mind-blowing.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, it's unbelievable. And you should see, I got to send you guys a picture of what it looked like before, but they were completely trashed, and like we had them just totally redone.
Shlomo, have you had any surprises? You were in many different markets, and I know, you know, when you enter a new market, like New York is like a league of its own, right, in terms of real estate and demand, and you know, any big surprises as you've expanded nationally?
Well, there was this thing called COVID that was a little bit of a surprise, because
you didn't see that one coming. You didn't build that into your pro formas.
Like, you know, like that classic of what's the worst that could happen, you know? But like for us, it was really crazy. That 2020 was insane for us, because the way, you know, the end of 2019. So in 2019 is when we really expanded out of New York. First time, right. Okay. So we opened up our Philly location, which was like super easy, because Philly is an hour and a half from here. You hop on the train and you're in Philly. You know, I could be there and go in there for a couple hours and be back in New York by the end of the day. And then our first one was, we opened in December of 2019, we opened our Austin location. And then February 2020 was a soft launch of Chicago. Then we were supposed to open DC, the next Chicago and DC in the summer of 2020. Then towards the end of 2020 was supposed to be LA. And you know, so it was one of those, you know, when we went into that year, we're thinking, oh, this is our breakout year.
You were firing on all cylinders.
We're going to sign another 10 deals. And there were some other deals that, you know, are not even there enough. and it was just crazy. So that, I mean, that was obviously the biggest surprise that we've ever had as a company.
Yeah.
But I guess it's kind of true if like they say, right? If you make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. Like, as far as like New York is a hard city to, kind of grit your teeth in. What we have learned though is you got to know your cities.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest surprise to us, which is something that we know now, is trying to figure out just, the lay of the land in certain cities. And it's interesting. I know which cities the brokers are more aggressive and which ones are less aggressive, and to work with them in. Then there's like, learning about which cities are union and which cities are non-union structured.
Yeah.
And how to navigate that. And then there's obviously, I mean, loss factors, I think, are the biggest in New York. So it's actually loss factors are better on the other side. The one thing that is kind of like that OpEx versus rent number is always, we have gross rents in New York. So it's $60 a foot or $70 a foot. And then, you go to like, Austin, for instance, or Denver, right? And they're like, oh, it's $35 a foot. You're like, oh, okay, cool. That pencils out. And they're like, and OpEx is $27,
Right. Right.
But these are all things that you just kind of learn as you go. And it's different. I always like now going into things, and like now as we stabilize things, it's like creating partnerships and relationships in these cities is extremely, extremely important.
Yeah. And I think one of the things Jamie and I were talking about is how you're shifting kind of your deal structure and how you're basically doing deals now in a post-COVID world, right? And I think it was perfect to put you as the moderator for the deal structure panel, right? Because we've got some seasoned operators that are doing some of those management deals. So you want to kind of talk about how you're looking at growth from a more creative deal structure standpoint than you were before the pandemic?
So I think right now I think it's going to end up being the new normal is management deals, right? And management deals right now are very interesting because everybody's talking about them, but a lot of them some of them are getting done, but there's a lot of them that, there's a lot of education that has to happen on the landlord side. And what I've noticed is like, I get that question all the time. What's a typical management deal look like? And I'm like, there is no such thing as typical management deal, because a management deal right now is all based on the landlord's, like how comfortable the landlord is with the management deal and how much he wants to kind of, like trick himself into thinking it's almost like a lease, or how comfortable he is to actually dealing with something that's more on like the percentage rent side, like that people are used to doing with retail. And so, I think that the most typical management deals like we start off talking about is something like, a 70-30 split with, kind of like a 10% in and a 10% management fee and something along those lines. But I don't think it ever ends up there, right? There's always like, that conversation with the landlord is like, what do you need to be comfortable, right? Yeah. And whether is it a lease, right? And there's that whole idea of trying to figure out like how to underwrite this deal for a bank when it's not a lease anymore and now it's a management deal. So there's like tricks that people are doing, like, having an LLC and then together with the landlord that you're a partner with, and then the landlord's officially signing a lease and guaranteeing the lease.
Give it to the bank.
They're all like loopholes and tricks. And I think slowly but surely things are going to change over time, but it's weird. Like the banking industry, I think is probably the biggest, from a finance perspective, is probably the biggest hurdles that landlords need to get over once they're comfortable. And that's something that has not been figured out yet. And, it's getting closer to it and people are coming up with tricks, but it'll be really nice to see, kind of like a new structure, but I think we're a couple of years away from that.
Shlomo, I suspect you're attractive to landlords who are getting the need to attract tenants in a different way. And the hospitality angle, the fact that your common spaces look like a beautiful, boutique hotel. Do you find that they're kind of drawn to that, or how are those conversations going?
Well, we're having a lot of those conversations. It's, it's very similar to like the management deal thing, right? Is the landlords know they need to do something, but it's a little bit of like, I don't know if it's an ego thing or if it's something along the lines of like, they're so used to being set in their ways of how they did things, and now realizing that they have to do it themselves, like that they have to get somebody else because they can't necessarily do it themselves. So the best landlords to get are the ones that try doing it themselves and now have tripped up, and now they're just like, they've surrendered.
No way. Yeah, right.
They're like, okay,
waving the flag.
now I need to like work with you guys,
Yep.
but like, or getting someone that has like a blank spaces sort of building, right? Because the idea is that we're really pitching is we can go ahead and take your class B or C building and turn it into like an A building from a desirability perspective for prospective tenants, right? And they're coming in there, and whether they're a tenant in the building, and so now there's certain amenities that we have that they could be a part of, or whether they're just actually using that shared space, you're bringing that sort of like coolness, wellness factor into that building. And that's something that, the best landlords to deal with are the ones that realize they need that and realize that they don't necessarily have that. And
so go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say it's similar to like a hotel flag, right? I wonder, I wasn't around for the, for when the, the hotel industries really kind of came in, but like that idea, I don't know how it worked, but I figured the same thing, right? A landlord comes to us and says like, why can't I just make a bunch of small offices and rent it out? And I'm like, why don't you try and then call me when you're done, right? And it's the same idea with the hotels, right? It's like you have a flag, right? Because if you tried making your own hotel, you wouldn't necessarily, be able to, you realize there's a lot more than just, why can't I just rent a room for a night instead of, signing a 1-year lease with in an apartment? And then eventually that you see there's a lot more to the management, there's a lot more to the curation, and that's how like the hospitality industry was set. And like now they have, hotel flags everywhere. And so I assume that in the future, you're going to see more like flags, the same thing like a hotel flag for shared workspace operators.
And we're already seeing it, right? With Coworks and their 2 flags. We're seeing it with Industrious and them picking up Hana. We're seeing, what we're going to continue to see overall. I'm trying to avoid the word, Jamie, so I don't get in trouble.
We have a drinking game that we play, Shlomo. We take a shot every time Gio says Bonvoy.
So yeah, and so that's what they've done. I mean, Bonvoy has 32 brands under their flag, right?
That's one
IHG,
shot, right?
and they have the same thing. So
what'd you say? Who has 2 flags?
Coworks has Office Evolution and Venture X under them, and then like I said, Industrious is Hana now. And there's other platforms.
IWG's, I mean, essentially done that for a long time, but they're a great example. They don't necessarily, they kind of market it that way, I guess. I mean, some of their brands are single locations, acquisitions that they've made, but.
Yeah, I mean, Spaces was an acquisition.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
So was the Wind.
Yeah, which I just officially made the announcement they're closing this past week. So hopefully we get some more badass women that are, oh wait, I'm not allowed to, oh man, your daughter's.
I'm gonna have to bleep. I already said it too. I'll have to bleep a couple times. I'll tell the editor. If you curse in your podcast, you have to tag it as like not clean in Apple Podcasts.
Well, not just that, your daughter.
My daughter is an right. She likes to keep things clean, Shlomo.
Got it.
Shlomo has 4 kids, by the way, Gio. Did you meet Flip Power?
Great response.
No, I'm thinking about my one kid.
Son, my oldest started high school yesterday, which is crazy.
Wow.
Yeah,
Totally crazy.
In high school now, it's crazy. That's not my son.
No, I know. Who is that? Okay, Gio, we're on the clock. Last question. We're gonna have to have Shlomo back.
It's your question.
What'd you say?
It's you've got the last question.
You want me to ask the wrap-up question? Okay, I'm gonna give 2 sides of it. 1, what keeps you up at night? And 2, what are you most excited about?
what keeps me up at night? I think what keeps me up at night is how we go ahead and, everybody's kind of like stabilizing their businesses and restructuring things and putting it all together. And like the idea is of like going ahead and like, we're going to be raising more money right now, like once we stabilize everything, and then like growth again. And that's what's kept me up before COVID, and what is still something now is like, how do we kind of like retain and just like keep that core culture that we have together with our team, as well as like that vibe that we create within our spaces. So that's something that's super, super important, because like, you see other companies in high growth and, they kind of like lose that and either, get a little bit more of that generic sort of feel. So like staying boutique and staying kind of like the indie style, like company that we are, I think is something that we really want to retain. And then what am I most excited about? I'm excited that a lot of people are coming back to office. I couldn't get, the past couple of days is so many people have been driving in that, the lots have been filled all around Lower Manhattan, which I think is amazing. So I'm really excited about people coming back to work and like this new wave of, flex that's coming in. So that to me is something that, we've all been waiting for it. I'm excited for this entire industry. I'm excited for everybody, because anybody that's, kind of still around and stuck it out deserves to see the good side,
the rebirth, or the evolution. It's here. It's our time.
Well, I'm excited to see you in the next few weeks here in Texas. So
likewise, looking forward to it.
All right.
You're one of my favorite people to hang out with, because you're so genuine. So I look forward to.
Awesome. You got to come work out with us now, because me and Jamie have a workout date.
Yeah,
I'm going to program an amazing race.
Roll up in your Bronco.
Maybe we'll do like a relay race. Okay.
As long as I don't have to run.
The wheels are turning.
I could do a relay hobble.
The wheels are turning. Okay, guys.
Let's do it.
We'll do it. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, Shlomo. Thanks, Jamie. Bye.